Hi friends, how's everybody doing? Are you doing good? Good. We're reading the story Little House in the Big Woods, and we're going to start on chapter 2. I'm going to go ahead and show you the pictures first. I also want to give a hello to my friends Brandon and Braden. It's good to see you guys. I love you. I miss you. I also want to say hello to my friend Vinny and Serenity. If you're seeing this, I miss you guys very much. Love you. Let's go ahead and start on chapter 2. Winter days and winter nights. The first snow came and bitter cold. Every morning, Pa took his gun and his traps and was gone all day in the big woods, setting the small traps for the muskrats and the mink along the creek, the middle-sized traps for foxes and wolves in the woods. He set out for the big bear traps, hoping to get a big fat bear before they all went into their dens for the winter. One morning, he came back, took the horses and the sled, and hurried away again. He had shot a bear. Laura and Mary jumped up and down and clapped their hands. They were so glad. Mary shouted, "I want the drumstick! I want the drumstick!" Mary did not know how big a bear's drumstick is. When Paul came back, he had both a bear and a pig in the wagon. He had been going through the woods with the big bear traps in his hands and the gun on his shoulder when he walked around a big pine tree covered with snow. The bear was behind the tree. Look, there's the bear behind the tree. And there's Pa. Now remember, boys and girls, life back then was not like it is today. There weren't any grocery stores that you could go to. There weren't any cars. All they had to hunt and grow in their garden. So Pa had to go and hunt for meat. He couldn't go to the grocery store for it. The bear had just killed the pig and was picking it up to eat it. Pa said that the bear was standing up on his hind legs, holding the pig in his paws just as though he had hands. Pa shot the bear, and there was no way of knowing where that pig had come from nor whose pig it was. "So I just brought it home for the bacon," Pa said. There was plenty of fresh meat at last for the long time. The days and the nights were so cold that the pork in a box and the bear meat hanging in the little shed outside the back door were solidly frozen and did not thaw. When Ma wanted fish meat for dinner, Pa took an axe and cut off a chunk of that frozen bear meat or the pork. When Ma wanted fresh meat for dinner, Pa would take out the axe and cut off a chunk of that frozen bear meat or pork. But the sausage balls or the salt pork or the smoked ham and the venison, Ma could get for herself from the shed or the attic. The snow kept coming till it was drifting and banking against the house. In the morning, the window panes were covered with frost and beautiful pictures of trees and flowers and fairies. Ma said that Jack Frost came in the night and made the pictures while everyone was asleep. Laura thought that Jack Frost was a little man all snowy white, wearing a glittering white pointed cap and soft white knee boots made of deer skin. His coat was white and his mittens were white, and he did not carry a gun on his back. But in his hands he had shining, sharp tools with which he carved the pictures. Laura and Mary were allowed to take Ma's thimble and made pretty patterns of circles in the frost of the glass, but they never spoiled the pictures that Jack Frost had made in the night. When they put their mouths close to the pane and blew their breath on it, the white frost melted and ran in drops down the glass. Then they would see the drifts of snow outdoors and the great trees standing bare and black, making thin blue shadows on the white snow. Laura and Mary helped their mom with her work. Every morning there were the dishes to wipe. Mary wiped more of them than Laura because she was bigger. But Laura always wiped carefully of her own little cup and plate. By the time the dishes were all wiped and set away, the trundle bed was aired. Then, standing one on each side, Laura and Mary straightened the covers, tucked them in well at the front and the sides, plumped up the pillows, and put them in place. So here, picture. Here's the girls making their bed. After this was done, Ma began to work that belonged to that day. Each day had its own proper work. Ma used to say, wash on Monday, iron on Tuesday, mend on Wednesday, churn on Thursday, clean on Friday, bake on Saturday, rest on Sunday. Laura liked the churning and the baking days best of all. In winter, the cream was not yellow as it was in the summer, and the butter churned from it was white and not so pretty. Ma liked everything on her table to be pretty. So in the wintertime, she colored the butter. After she had put the cream in the tall crockery churn and set it near the stove to warm, she washed and scraped a long orange-colored carrot. Then she gathered it on the bottom of the old leaky tin pan that Pa had punched full of nail holes for her. Ma rubbed the carrot across the roughness until she had rubbed it all through the holes, and when she lifted up the pan, there was a soft, juicy mound of grated carrot. She put this in the little pan of milk on the stove, and when the milk was hot, she poured milk and carrots into the cloth bag. Then she squeezed the bright yellow milk into the churn, where it colored all of the cream. Now the butter would be yellow. Laura and Mary were allowed to eat the carrots after the milk had been squeezed out. Mary thought she ought to have the largest share because she was older, and Laura said she should have it because she was littler. But Ma said they must divide it evenly. It was very good. When the cream was ready, Ma scalded the long wooden churn dish, put it in the churn, and dropped the wooden churn over it. The churn cover had a little round hole in the middle, and Ma moved the dish up and down and up and down and up and down through the hole. She churned for a long time. Mary could sometimes churn while Ma rested, but the dash was too heavy for Laura. At first, the splashes of cream shoved thick and smooth around the little hole. After a long time, they began to look grainy. Then, Ma churned more slowly, and on the dash there began to appear tiny grains of yellow butter. So this is a butter churn. See, this is called the dash. That stick is the dash. And see the butter, this is the cream that would splash out. And the more you take that stick, it's got like a little, it's got 4 prongs on the end, and the stick comes up, kind of like a tripod, but it has 4. And they would take that and they would push it up and down and up and down and up and down. And the friction would actually turn the cream into butter. So as you do that, it gets thicker and thicker and it gets harder to push down. So that's why Mary was able to churn the butter, but Laura wasn't. She didn't have the strength. So there's the butter churn. When Ma took off the churn cover, there was butter and the golden lumps drowning in the buttermilk. When Ma took out the lump with the wooden paddle into the wooden bowl, and she washed it many times in cold water, turning it over and over and working it with the paddle until the water ran clear. After that, she salted it. Now came the best part of the churning. Ma molded the butter. On the loose bottom of the wooden butter mold was carved a picture of a strawberry with 2 strawberry leaves. With the paddle, Ma packed the butter tightly in the mold until it was full. Then she turned it upside down over a plate and pushed on the handle of the loose bottom. The little firm pat of a golden butter came out, with a little strawberry with its leaves molded on top. Mary and Laura watched, breathless, one on each side of Ma, while the golden little butter pats, each with the little strawberry on its top, dropped to the plate as Ma put all the butter through the mold. Then Ma gave them each a drink of fresh, good buttermilk. We drank buttermilk. We didn't think it was very fresh or good, did we? Ugh, didn't like that buttermilk at all. But Mary and Laura are liking the buttermilk. On Saturday, when Ma made the bread, they each had a little piece of dough to make into a little loaf. They might have a little bit of cookie dough too, to make into little cookies. And once Laura even made a pie in her patty pan. After the day's work was done, Ma sometimes cut paper dolls for them. She cut the dolls out of stiff white paper and drew the faces with them in pencil. Then from bits of colored paper, she cut dresses and hats, ribbons and laces, so that Laura and Mary could dress their dolls beautifully. But the best time of all was at night when Pa came home. He would come in from his trappings through the woody, snowy woods with the icicles hanging on his ends of his mustache. He would hang his gun on the wall over the door and throw off his fur cap and coat and mittens and call, "Where's my little half pint of sweet cider half drunk up?" That was Laura, because she was so small. Laura and Mary would run and climb in his knee and sit there while he warmed himself by the fire. Then he would put his coat and his cap and his mittens again and go out and do the chores and bring in plenty of firewood. Picture. There's Pa playing with the girls. Sometimes when Pa had walked his trap lines quietly because the traps were empty, or sometimes when Pa walked his trap lines quickly because the trap lines were empty, or when he had got some game sooner than usual, he would come home early. Then he would have time to play with Laura and Mary. One game they loved was called Mad Dog. Pa would run his fingers through his thick brown hair, standing it up on the ends. Then he'd drop down on all fours and growl, and he'd chase Laura and Mary all around the room, trying to get them cornered where they couldn't get away. They were quicker at dodging and running, but once he caught them again in the wood box beside the stove, they couldn't get past Pa, and there was no other way out. Then Pa growled some terribly. His hair was so wild and his eyes so fierce that it all seemed real. Mary was so frightened that she could not move. But as Pa came nearer, Laura screamed, and with a wild leap and a scramble, she went over the wood box, dragging Mary with her. And at once there was no mad dog at all. There was only Pa, standing there with his blue eyes shining, looking at Laura. "Well," he said to her, "you're only a little half pint of cider half drunk up, but by jinks, you're as strong as a little French horse." "You shouldn't frighten the children so, Charles," Ma said. "Look how big their eyes are." Pa looked at them and he took down his fiddle and began to play a song. Yankee Doodle went to town, he wore his striped trousers. He swore he wouldn't see the town, there was so many houses. Laura and Mary forgot all about Mad Dog. And there he saw some great big guns, big as a log of say maple. And every time they turned 'em round, it took 2 yoke of cattle. And every time they fired 'em off, it took a horn of powder and made a noise like father's gun, only a nation louder. Pa was keeping time with his foot, and Laura clapped her hands to the music when he sang, "And I'll sing Yankee Doodle Doodle, and I'll sing Yankee Doodle, and I'll sing Yankee Doodle Dee Dee Dee, and I'll sing Yankee Doodle." All along in the big woods and the snow and the cold, the little log house was warm and snug and cozy. Pa and Ma and Mary and Laura and baby Carrie were comfortable and happy there, especially at night. I'm going to stop right there, boys and girls. Just wanted to tell you I love you. Keep working hard. Keep reading. I'll see you next time.